In an apparent attempt to reach the Hispanic or Latino community, we'll talk about that in a second, the failed former president Donald Trump made himself as orange as ever and showed up to be interviewed by Univision. This was published in English as well as a version with subtitles. And I think they also did a version with some kind of dubbing. And it's a very strange interview. And as a Hispanic/Latino American myself, my view is this is not striking me as the sort of thing that would make me vote for Donald Trump. I know that I'm in a little bit of a different position as the host of a political show than maybe just a random voter. But let's take a look at a little bit. And one of the funny moments is Trump also seems confused about Hispanic versus Latino.
I call Hispanic, Latino. You have lots of different terms, but it all means the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
To Trump, it's all the same. Now, it's funny, as with any time that Trump tries to explain something that he doesn't know anything about, it sounds weird, but I'll be very honest. I think, Hispanic and Latino, and I'm not 100% clear on the difference. And depending on who you ask, you get a different explanation. One view is Hispanic means anyone from a culture that speaks Spanish. So that would include Spain, even though Spain is in Europe, not in Latin America. Under that view, Latino would mean from Latin America and speaking Spanish. So under Latino, Spain is out, but Brazil also would be out, and the other South American countries that don't speak Spanish would be out. There are other people who say Latino refers to the geography of Central and South America. And so Brazil, where Portuguese is spoken, is included in Latino. Honestly, I get different answers every time I talk to people about this. It's quite a situation. It'll, I guess, be reassuring that Trump's as confused as anybody else. Then it got weird, as if this wasn't a weird moment. Trump then started talking once again about World War III. They love to talk about Hillary would have gotten us into World War III. Biden's going to get us into World War III. And Trump says if such a World War III were to take place, Mexico would probably no longer exist. Listen to this.
It could end up in World War III. And if World War III happens, probably Mexico will no longer be around because the power of nuclear weapons are so big. If they hit us, you're going to be wiped out too. That's how bad it is. And when I hear these people talking about the environment and over a 300-year period, the oceans will rise by 1/100th of an inch. And this is such a threat. It's not a threat. The threat is not global warming. It's nuclear warming. It's the single biggest threat to your country, to our country, to every country.
Now, the funny thing about Trump bringing up, so first of all, standard Republican fear-mongering, make people afraid so that they will vote for you. Netanyahu does it in Israel. Republicans love to do it. Fear, fear, fear. Vote for me. I will resolve that issue for you. Okay. When Trump talks about nuclear as the greatest threat, Trump and basically most Republicans do not seem committed to any kind of broader nuclear disarmament. Sure, Iran shouldn't have them, they go with. And by the way, I agree. Based on what Iran funds and the belligerent threats of Iran, I don't want Iran having nuclear weapons. I also don't think the United States needs the number we have, and I'm for a broader disarmament. But they never go for the broader disarmament arguments. No, well, obviously, we'll keep them and we'll keep making them and buying them and having them. And of course, but Iran shouldn't have them. And what about a broader message of nuclear disarmament? You don't hear it from people like Trump. Trump then admits, and remember, when they tell us what they're going to do, we should believe them. Trump admits that since it's been done to him, he will weaponize the DOJ against his political enemies if he gets that opportunity.
His former President Donald Trump addressed Spanish-speaking voters yesterday in an interview with Univision. This aired last night. It was with Univision correspondent and CBS News contributor Enrique Acevedo, who asked the former president if he planned to use the FBI and the Justice Department to target his opponents if he got a second term.
Yeah, it could certainly happen in reverse. It could certainly happen in reverse. What they've done is they've released the genie out of the box. You understand that? They've done something that nobody thought.
Boxed genie. You know, it's sort of like wine. We're used to having genies in a bottle, but you do sometimes find boxed wine. It's sort of like a low rent thing. And you can also, by the way, I know nothing about wine. For all I know, boxed wine is fine. You could also find a boxed genie.
What would happen? They've done indictments in order to win an election. They call it weaponization. And the people aren't going to stand for it. But yeah, they have done something that allows the next party. I mean, if I happen to be president and I see somebody who's doing well and beating me very badly, I say,
there you go.
Go down and indict them. Mostly that would be, they would be out of business. They'd be out. They'd be out of the election.
There you go. So Trump's saying, hey, listen, they did it to me. I could do it. And if someone's beating me or whatever. Now, one really funny thing about this is beating Trump in what? Trump can't run again if he wins in 2024. Trump's saying, if I win in 2024 and I get into power and then someone's running against me and maybe they're winning, I can go and have them indicted. What would you be running for if you won in 2024? Like, every detail of this is completely and totally deranged. And then on the issue of the criminal charges against Trump, the interviewer actually doing a pretty good job to hit a lot of the important questions here. What if you're forced to drop out of the race? What if you're unable to run because of what's happening going from trial to trial? Here's Trump weighing in on that.
Week, you were in New York in court. Today, you're facing 4 indictments in multiple jurisdictions. Are you concerned that you might win the Republican nomination only to be forced to drop out of the race?
Well, I don't think you drop out. I think the people know it's a political persecution. It's a political hoax. This is Biden, who's the worst president in the history of our country. We've never had a president so dumb, so incompetent, and so corrupt from the standpoint of what they're doing. They've weaponized the Justice Department. They've weaponized the FBI. And they've come at me with the worst indictments. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I'm probably the only guy ever indicted whose poll numbers have shot up through the roof. I mean, it's actually been helpful from the standpoint of getting elected because the people understand it. It's a hoax. And everything they did, whether they rigged the election last time or this, it's the same thing. It's all the same thing. And frankly, it's the only thing they're good at. They're good at rigging elections. This is a form of rigging an election. So they think they can damage me. Now, so far, it's been the exact opposite, because when you study it, and I have a voice. I mean, I have a voice with you. I have a voice with others where I can.
All right. So the point here is Trump just doesn't think that these criminal trials and these charges are going to ultimately hurt him. So a really wacky interview. I'm not sure how many Latino voters were convinced to vote for Trump for this interview. I do think it's important to mention Republicans love telling the story that Hispanic voters in 2020, huge surge for Trump. It doesn't really seem that that's the case. Historically, if you look at 2008, 2012, 2016, somewhere between 27 and 33% of Latino voters voted for the Republican. It seems as though maybe Trump improved on that by like a point or so in 2020, but the numbers I'm finding don't show the Latino surge for Trump. So something to keep in mind. We'll see where that group of voters shakes out in 2024.